being right before lunch because everybody has other things on their minds, but delighted to be with you all today. As mentioned, I'm with Booking.com. Most Europeans are well aware who we are. Delighted to hear there are customers in the room, and we miss you and we miss travel. I'm happy to share with you some of our journey around diversity and inclusion and belonging. This is a journey or a trip we will never finish. The human experience is constantly evolving, and each of our organizations have unique characteristics, cultural strengths, and opportunities that we need to leverage. One of the benefits of Booking is we are incredibly multinational. As you can see, these are all employees. People that work at Booking are what I call rabid travelers, myself included. And, we love to go through and experience the world. That's our mission around making it easier for everyone to experience the world. But I don't want to go and see, the image of what someone says it should look like in a destination. I want to see how the locals live. And the model is very much true with the way we think about our employees. We know from our own survey that the number one thing that keeps people at Booking and what they enjoy the most is that cultural diversity and the multinational experience. And so one of our big challenges was around how do we engage our employees and how do we make them part of the solution? And so, we started going through and thinking about some of the challenges that were going to face us. This is a quote from one of my former role models and mentors. And people tend to think that diversity and inclusion is something that we're going to put out of a job in the next 5 to 10 years. And sadly, that's not the case. We know that the human experience is constantly evolving. The rate of inclusion and bringing people to the table and creating seats for them is difficult. So we have to take a long-term view of this. And so our message to our employees was much matter where you are in your journey, the amount you know or don't know, that there's a place for you in this dialogue. And we really break it down into 3 buckets. And this is some external research that showed us there's a third of the population on any social movement that's actively engaged and wants to be part of the solution. They're your advocates that are kind of the activists in the best possible way. The second third is really around the middle, where people are interested in the trip, but they're nervous about what they're going to run into. Will I fit in? Do I have the knowledge? Am I going to make mistakes? And then there's a third that's agnostic or opposed to that narrative, whatever the narrative is around your journey. And I think a lot of programs go through and focus on the naysayers rather than enabling the 2/3. And we know from the same research that you only need about a third of a population to start a social movement. And so we wanted to empower our employees to be part of the solution, to go through and really drive conversations in different ways. And so we came out with this program called B.Inclusionist. And we launched it with a video that I want to share with all of you.
So I think inclusion as a topic is really important to me because I know what it's like to be excluded, to not feel like a part of the group. Growing up gay in the rural part of the United States is never easy.
When you look at me, apparently you can see I'm a woman and I'm Asian, I'm short in height. That's just the outside of me. And by talking to me or working with me or spending some time with me, you probably can see more of me.
Being the only woman in the room makes you very aware of what it's like to be the only something in a working environment.
Throughout my life, I've been kind of on the outskirts, so I was like the smart kid in class or the kid that wasn't very good at gym, and I've always felt some sort of slight exclusion. And that's not a great feeling. I mean, it's hard enough to just be a human in the world, let alone someone that people don't see as valid. So
it has personally affected me as well because of being queer and not being able to accept, don't even have vocabulary to explain.
I recently read a quote that said that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
I think inclusion is to try indeed to step into somebody else's shoes and to see the world from their eyes.
We also work in an industry that's all about experience, exploration, broadening the mind.
And it's an effort that we all need to do together, or else the world will never progress forward.
I don't want to live in a world where everyone is the same, and I don't want to work in an environment where everyone is the same.
I believe that everyone has a talent and a strong trait. Unfortunately, not everybody has an opportunity to develop these traits.
Diversity and inclusion cannot be a success if everyone don't get involved.
Diversity without inclusion is just presence. It's not actually influence.
You need to make people feel appreciated and celebrated for what they are and for what they bring to the table.
I realized the importance about being truly yourself. It sounds very easy statement, but it's actually not at all.
And then being able to be myself and not need to fit into one organization or group allows me to be myself.
I think we can be mindful that not everyone communicates the same way and not everyone perceives information in the same way.
Anyone can suffer from the feeling of exclusion in their life.
We all come from different backgrounds, we all have different experiences, and by leveraging all of that information together, it can only have a positive effect.
Making sure that everyone knows what's happening.
And making sure that we can continue to get all of those different voices and viewpoints to build the best products possible.
I hope that in future this will be part of every day.
And although we do well on diversity as a company, we still have 15% of people who do not feel included.
So my question to you is, what will you do to help your colleagues feel part of something bigger? What will you do to help us become the organization we aspire to be?
Well, I hope that was helpful and frankly inspiring. It starts out dark, helping people understand the realities that people face in society today, the challenges they face getting to and from work, and unfortunately, potentially in the office itself. But we wanted to talk about hope, and we wanted to motivate people and drive them to action. And so we were sitting around one day saying, what do we call this group? It's not an employee resource group. But we want to empower these employees. And the kind of joke was, we want kind of like a feminist for inclusion, like an inclusionist. And we all kind of looked at each other and said, that resonates. And so there's not in-person meetings, but we send clear messages to the organization saying this is what it means to be at booking.com and what we expect from our colleagues. We expect you to make everyone feel part of the family, because Booking is the most like a family of any place I've ever been before. And, that means we've got the good parts and bad parts of family. But, ask yourself then, what are the characteristics or qualities of inclusion that, or would it support being an inclusionist? We very much made this about action for people. We talk a lot about allyship, but really it came down to these three buckets around celebrate, learn, and inspire. We do things National Women's Day, or Be Proud. We use the heck out of Be Something whenever we're talking about things, but Be Proud Day is our global LGBT group, and it's where our ERG started. And every office, we're more than 220 markets around the world, every single office around the world celebrates Be Proud Day. Be Well Week is our work that's now morphed into a month around well-being, for example. We do the same thing, obviously, for International Women's Day. We've done events to celebrate, build awareness. We have a workplace community. We use Facebook for corporate workplace as a communication tool, and Be Inclusionist is a group there. We'll see some more of that in a moment. We have an inclusion portal, but we've also curated learning pathways that educate people around diversity and inclusion. Most people are doing unconscious bias training. We build things around kind of having difficult conversations, but also how do we encourage and empower people? And are looking into things like going through and having an inclusionist level 1 that would go through and actually badge people on their knowledge around identity and or skills competency around a unique area of inclusion. We also inspire people via our Global Inclusion Day. We post the Playmakers Inclusionist honorees. We'll talk more about that. We bring external speakers in and have an I Commit campaign that's around asking each of us to be able to say what we're going to do different towards this ideal of inclusion. And you'll see more about that in just a moment. So in the top center, you see an example of our IDB Resource Portal. And again, IDB stands for Inclusion, Diversity, and Belonging. And there's a model of ask, learn, activate, lead that we take people through. The B.Inclusionist community, you can see the logo there on the right side, is where colleagues come together to share articles or upskill each other, find support when they're frustrated with what's not happening, but really reach out to our advocates and people that are part of the solution and challenging people to go through and grow forward. And the learning path you see at the bottom in our learning platform around what an inclusionist is, what is the inclusionist movement, what does it mean to be an ally, a whole host of content around driving people to build awareness as an ally. We also do role models. So I talked about Playmakers and Inclusionist Awards. Every year, we open it to all colleagues around the globe to nominate colleagues that are making a difference in their experience. Playmakers are people that are making a difference at a global scale, and inclusionists are people that are making a difference on a local team or within their own office. So, for example, Andrea DeMarco that you see there is the managing director for EMEA, and his team nominated him. Nikia Boone, that's on the bottom right corner, actually was one of our managers in software development that helped start our Be Bold Black Employee Network, among other activities. And so we use this as a way to profile and show people that this is the sort of behavior we encourage and frankly expect from colleagues. It also is a talent source so that whenever we have people we need to speak at conferences or we're able to go through and help educators, our leaders identify talent embedded within the organization. These are the people that are really living our values, and we've got a ripe well of people that we can plug into people. Thankfully, this has been very well received by our people, and you see some of the comments that came from our own folks. We wanted it to resonate and feel grassroots and not overly produced. So the video you saw is the only time that we've gone external around having something created, and that was the kickoff video. And so really wanted something that resonated with our people. More than 20% of our population has engaged with the topic and is driving it forward. And so, you know, all signs are positive. We continue to invest in being inclusionist and drive this in different ways. And so my challenge to you is to think about what it is your companies could do that would incentivize people to be part of the solution. Because a lot of times I think people wait for leaders at the top of the organization to signal it. And we all need that tone at the top. But it's got to feel organic. And there's a natural tension that exists between, you know, us as allies supporting each other and creating a for us, by us movement. And so, you know, and as you asked a question around how do we manage to engage the people in the core topic that's so far away from our core business? Actually, I don't think it's that far from our core business. We believe that travel is a great equalizer and it brings the world closer together. And so as part of our mission to help everyone experience the world, you know, it is this piece around the world that's for us today. And what are the colleagues that we could learn from each other? You know, we're less than 17,000 employees with upwards of 1 billion customers. And it's critical that we understand the unique needs of all communities in order to factor that into the products that we offer you and to understand what it is you may need as a customer. Hopefully, as customers are booking, no matter where you're traveling on the world, it creates a common frame or lexicon of what you're looking for and what you identify in the product. And we're looking to do the same thing around our employees. I very much view this as a helix of DNA. And one of the strands is the colleague experience, and the other strand's the customer experience. And we need to tie those closer together because we've all been on the situations and customers. I hope this hasn't been your experience, but where we call in and it feels like someone's reading from a script. Because we need help with something. And so we want to go through and try and be as proximate to our customers as possible, empathetic about the challenges they're facing. And we just need to get as close as we can to making everyone feel part of the family, be it a customer or a colleague. So great question. You know, I mentioned us being a family, and this piece is very important to us as far as that sense of belonging in the community. But I think each of our organizations need to think about the leverage points. if you notice, we haven't branded the video, and that video is available on my LinkedIn profile. It's available via our social media and LinkedIn post. And we designed it in a way that anybody could use it. We borrow content from an Inclusion Starts With I that Accenture did a few years ago. It's great content. I think we've seen a lot of the videos that are done around privilege, for example. And so we wanted to do something that could be leveraged and not treated as proprietary information. And so, we talk about B.Inclusion, we talk about the things that work. We have the video, for example, that's available to hopefully, improve the experience of everyone. We talked a little bit about some of the I Commit campaigns. And so here you'll see signs that we do every Global Inclusion Day to be able to go through and ask people to, what are they going to do different this year? And, in 220 offices around the world, you can see the range of people. Some of these people are from the video, but very much have seen that sort of kind of expansion of the program and people taking actions. I'll back up for just a second. The woman in the center that you saw in the video with the black shirt is our chairwoman, Gillian Tans. We have people from around the world, all business units, all levels that are participating. And it was very much that we're in it together, and back to that idea of the stone. It's not about your seniority in the organization. It's not about the role you play. It's not about the department you're in. How do we work to bring the world together? We just recently launched a campaign in the United States called, America is for Everyone. And it's around the idea, going back to that travel idea, that we can experience the world even when we're traveling proximate to home, but we all want to understand the different cultures and find out more about the communities we live in. So encourage more questions, but I would ask you to think about what are the commitments you and your organization could make to go through and have your employees be part of the solution? How do you empower them to do so? And what does that look like for you? You're welcome to use any of our resources. I already shared with the conference, we actually have a job description around B.Inclusionist. Again, the video is available for use, but happy to help out and partner with folks on figuring out what this looks like. It's been a real source of joy, though, for our colleagues, and I think you can see it in these pictures that were submitted as we launched this with our folks from around the world. They very much have felt part of the solution, as you saw from the comments. They're innovating ideas and ways for it to make a difference in their own local markets. It feels locally relevant for them, so it's not like we're just pushing it out of our headquarters here in Amsterdam. It creates a common language for people as well. So I mentioned whenever I was talking about a third, and a third, that people are concerned in that middle third about getting something wrong. And as we mentioned, we will. But whenever our folks go through and say, hey, I'm an inclusionist, I'm trying to learn, it's kind of your pass to say, I've done some of my own homework, but I need your help to get better and be better at what we're doing. The gentleman that was just on the screen, Ram, actually leads our customer accessibility team in creating our website to be more both sustainable, but also accessible for people that are differently abled, was part of it. We want to encourage innovation and ideas like we want to encourage innovation and ideas around our products. Sarah, thanks for the topic. And the authenticity piece is something I think is really important on topics of diversity and inclusion so that everybody feels included. For example, we've done a lot of work around gender pay equity. And we did have to make adjustments in order to achieve pay equity for like work when we look at the market we operate in, the role people are in, and the performance they receive. But it was less than 1,000 adjustments out of the 17,000 plus people we have. And frankly, more adjustments needed to be made to men's salaries than women's salaries. And so I think when we talk about a lot of these topics, we tend to go through and hear them in the context of this is something we're doing for this population, when fairness and equity actually helps us all. High tides lift all ships. And so happy to answer any other questions, but this is what I wanted to share with you. I hope you find it useful. These are signs that we printed up very inexpensively and distributed to all of our offices, or they had the ability to print locally, where people could come up and share their commitments with each other and be held accountable for them. And so if there's no more questions, happy to let you go to lunch and appreciate your time and attention today. If there is something we can answer a little bit more, I'm happy to stick around for a little bit. But I hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy the conference. And thank you to the organization for also allowing me to share some of our work. Cheers, everyone.
Right. Stay on the line. Stay on the line.
Absolutely.
There are absolutely some questions, but first of all, thank you for your great presentation. And here first, let's say a comment, not a question, from Dagmar Repiska. A very moving video. Thank you for sharing that. So that's and it's 5 likes that remark, so that's good. A question from Ines Windisch. How do you manage to engage the people into the topic that is so far away from your core business? So how involve the people with this topic?
Yeah, talked a little bit about that, but we don't view this as being outside of our core business. The mission of making it easier for everyone to experience the world truly means everyone. And unfortunately, we don't all travel the world equitably. As a gay man, the number of conversations I've had with property owners when my husband and I checked into a property and they tried to convince us that we wanted separate beds, I can't count anymore. I have colleagues that, for example, have a hesitation to go to the desk together just to avoid that from the LGBT community. From previous organizations, I know that women, when they travel, for example, for the organization I was in, the women tended to leave a half a day earlier on business travel because they wanted to get to the hotel before it got dark, for safety reasons. Whereas I tended to be the guy that was the last flight out of the day, get me there, I'm rocking in the hotel at midnight. And so we absolutely viewed this and understanding the unique needs of travel as core to our business. And so, around diversity and inclusion, in my opinion, you've got to think about what you do with your colleagues, and you've got to get your house in order. You need to think about the partners you have and the people you work with. For us, that's groups like hotel chains or properties, airlines, restaurant. And then you need to think about your end customers. And so, B.Inclusionist is very much look at that entire kind of partner, colleague, customer life cycle and how we can make enhancements.